Hello and welcome today. We're very, very pleased to have Tim Steele with us. Tim is the Director, AMP Horizons Financial Planning Academy. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you, Rachel. Delighted to join you.
Thank you. Tim, we've got some questions to ask you. The first one would be, what are the 5 most common mistakes business owners make?
Look, there's obviously a few key areas where I think business owners tend to struggle. One is when I see planners looking to start practices, they tend to spend too much time and energy trying to get the business perfectly set up. So even the little things like logos and email addresses and all those sorts of things. And I think that creates a challenge for them in obviously focusing on that rather than writing business. We see that there's generally a lack of accurate planning considering various scenarios, so looking at the best, worst case and likely scenarios. There's therefore, as an output of that, typically insufficient capital to support prolonged startup phase, so where projections may not come to fruition and therefore it does take longer than expected to generate the income that might have been modelled. We tend to see poor cash flow management. We know that any small business, and financial planning businesses are no exception, cash is critical to support the ongoing growth and development of the business, and so cash flow management can be challenging. And I think the classic is balancing the working in versus on the business. So where do they spend their time at the different stages of growing the business? And a lot of financial planners are brilliant technically, and it's a very different mindset and approach required to be a successful business owner. Having to manage people and, as I said, cash flow and WIP is, again, a very different skill set.
Yeah, fantastic. What do you think makes a financial advisory business successful in today's times, Tim?
Well, we are obviously in really interesting times, and I think that creates great opportunity for financial planners. I think the first thing we look for is someone who has a very clear value proposition, so to be clear to their clients or prospects why someone should work with them. To have a segmented offer to various target markets, so not a one-size-fits-all solution. That includes, I think, single issue or scoped advice through to comprehensive advice. And we know that we're seeing an increase in more single issue advice, which I think aligns really well to what clients truly want. They're not looking to have to come in, if we use a medical analogy, and perhaps get a full medical if they've just got a sore shoulder. So the opportunity to be able to provide advice specifically relating to the issue that they have. I think strong alliance relationships, again, to be able to work with accountants, lawyers, estate specialists, a number of different professionals who have clients that meet their ideal client criteria. And I think they've obviously got to provide a quality advice and meaningful client experience, which would lead to increased referrals. Any successful financial planning business will tell you that whilst they work very hard early on to go out and generate opportunities, ultimately the greatest reward they have is once they reach a point of development where the majority of their clients come to them from other satisfied clients. And I think that continues to be a really successful model. And I think, again, in today's environment, obviously transparency of fees are going to be key.
Magic. Thanks, Tim. What changes do you believe will impact business owners over the next 5 years, and how prepared do you believe they are to actually face those challenges?
Well, look, I think, again, the profession has shown ability over the last 20 years to be able to continually adapt to ongoing change, and I don't think that's going to end. I think we'll find financial planning practices will do what they need to do to respond to the proposed and embedded regulatory changes that are now taking place. Specifically, I think, again, the ability to be able to articulate your value proposition and sell the value of advice. That's a fundamental difference from perhaps the revenue that you generate being embedded into a product, and where it may not have been transparent to a client. But to have a separation of product and advice requires that a planner is going to need to be able to sell the value of that advice. I think the proposed potential opt-in provisions are going to mean that there's more frequent engagement with lower value clients, and I think planners are going to need to find a way to cost effectively deliver the necessary engagement to clients at all different stages or levels of their potential fee structure. I think there are going to be increased client expectations. So we're seeing a lot of these changes are hitting the mainstream media, so it's not just the industry publications. And I think clients are certainly more cognizant of what their choices are, and they've got higher expectations, which is exactly what you'd hope and expect as an industry moves to become a profession, that there's clearer and higher expectations from a client's point of view. I think we're going to need to see fitter business models. What that means is that I think some financial planning practices have been able to survive over the years without having necessarily a very fit business structure because of the nature of the recurring income attached to the clients, and that's enabled them to perhaps be less structured in either their systems or the way they charge fees, and I think it's going to force more practices to have to think differently about the way they run their business, which again I think is ultimately a very positive thing for the profession, but will have some short-term ramifications.
That's excellent advice. Thanks, Tim. The last question, and I think it really goes back to some of the points that you've raised today. How do you believe financial advisors can actually differentiate themselves in today's market?
Well, the great thing is I actually think that the real opportunity exists for clients that aren't in fact dealing with financial planners today. We know that close to only 1 in 6 Australians actually sees a financial planner. So I think the opportunity to be able to do as we've already sort of spoken about, which is to have a very clear value proposition that provides solutions to clients at various stages, be it the high net worth or the mass market, and give them an opportunity to get quality advice based on their needs. And if you can do that in a way where your practice is structured so that it's cost effective for you and you've got appropriate margin built into your fee structure at whatever level, then I think there's a great opportunity to go out and actually provide more advice to more clients. So I think whilst differentiation is really important in a highly competitive marketplace, and I think that would be more critical in various segments of the market, like the high net worth segment. But I think in the mass market, the great opportunity exists in providing advice to those who currently don't see a planner. And so a large part of this is going to be ensuring that you make your practice accessible from a cost perspective in particular, and that you're able to clearly articulate the value of advice.
That's fantastic. That's such great tips, Tim. You've been very comprehensive with your answers, so we really do appreciate you taking the time out today. So that was Tim Steele, Director, AMP Horizons Financial Planning Academy. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Rachel. Pleasure.